I'm going to spend some time tonight talking about the behavior of great leaders. Those of you who've heard me speak before on this subject may recognize part of what I'm going to talk about, because I'm going to use 3 vignettes to discuss this behavior. And at the end of these 3 vignettes, I'll bring them all together and lay out to each of you what I believe is the single most important factor of being a great leader. Let me take you a little bit back in history. These vignettes took place years ago. To many of you, you weren't even born. Many of you weren't even born. But to me, they were like yesterday. Like yesterday. I was a recent graduate of the United States Naval Academy. I was 6'6". I weighed 220 pounds. I looked like Tom Cruise. I mean, honest to God, I looked like Tom Cruise. I acted like John Wayne. I was bulletproof. Bulletproof. I could not count on my hand the number of leaders who were better than me throughout history. The Vietnam War had been going on for about 1.5 to 2 years, and my only worry was that Bob Hope was going to get there before I got there. That it'd be over, and I would not have the pleasure of leading a rifle company of Marines into Hanoi to accept the surrender in the square there in the center of the city. That was me. Okay, that was my impression of Chuck Krulak. Things were a little different in reality, because as I was seeking to get to Vietnam in the early spring of 1966, an entire division of North Vietnamese Army regulars, the 324th Bravo North Vietnamese Army Division, was being taken off of the border that separated North Vietnam and China, and pulled south and was poised along the demilitarized zone between South Vietnam and North Vietnam. And that division was poised to lead the first direct invasion of South Vietnam by the North. It was an outstanding outfit. I mean, this was the division that spearheaded the defeat of the French at Dien Bien Phu. They were tested in combat. They were hard, very good soldiers. And here they were, ready to lead the invasion of South Vietnam. My precious Marine Corps, supported by Navy and Army and Air Force, moved 11 battalions up along the demilitarized zone to blunt that attack, to blunt the attack. And that's kind of where my first vignette starts. I was a young lieutenant, rifle company commander, and I was given a simple mission: to land in a valley that was nothing more than dried up rice paddies, about 9 football fields in length, 3 or 4 football fields in width. A stream running down the eastern side, surrounded by jungle-covered mountains. And our mission was going to be a simple one: take that rifle company, get in some helicopters, fly into that landing zone, that rice paddies, get out of the helicopters, get up on the ridge line to the north and just dig yourself in and hold for the attack of that North Vietnamese division. Sounded simple. And for me, the world's greatest leader, a piece of cake. So here we are, about 6 o'clock in the morning. In come the helicopter. That's a helicopter. They land. They land. They take off. Immediately upon taking off, we were taken under heavy small arms, automatic weapons, mortar and artillery fire. I mean, they pulled out and the world stopped. It just was hell on earth. And all of a sudden, I was not 6'6" anymore. I was 5'5". And I didn't weigh 200 plus pounds. I weighed 130 soaking wet. I was scared to death. My sphincter muscle was so tight, it wasn't funny. I was scared to death. And I mean to tell you, I got that rifle company as fast as I could off into the stream bed where we had some cover and we had some concealment. One problem. One of my platoons had been landed too far to the west, and as they started moving to try to get to that cover, they found themselves under such fire that they hit the deck. And one of those squads, one of the 3 squads of that platoon, hit the deck right in the line of fire of a North Vietnamese 50 caliber machine gun. And within a matter of seconds, I had at least 3 Marines killed, and 3 or 4 that were obviously wounded. And I could tell that it was just a matter of time before that gun laying on that squad killed everybody in the squad. And then it was going to shift to the next squad, and it was going to kill everyone in that squad and shift to the 3rd squad and kill everyone there. And this great leader, this John Wayne, was going to watch 36 Marines die right in front of his eyes. 36 Marines die. I picked up a radio, and I got on that radio and I said to the platoon commander, who was one of the platoon commanders in this stream bed, I said, I want you to take your platoon and I want you to move up the stream bed. I want you to get on the flank of that gun. And when you get on the flank of that gun, I want you to signal me, because when I give you the word, I'm going to want you to attack across the flank of the gun and knock it out. You understand that? He said, yes, sir. And as I was doing all of this, my radio operator grabbed me by the shirt sleeve. And he pointed out into the rice paddy and he said, look at Lance Corporal, and I'll use the name Jones. And I looked out there, and this young, and I mean young, he had just turned 18 years old, this young Lance Corporal, acting squad leader, that squad that was being decimated, had jumped up to his feet, had taken his rifle and had stuck it into his hip and had run at this gun as fast as he could, firing his rifle as he ran. Went about 20 yards towards the gun and then cut to the right. All the while firing his weapon. Miraculously, the gun picked up off of that squad and started tracking this precious Marine. The squad felt the pressure lift up off of him. And I mean, they grabbed their dead and they grabbed their wounded and they pulled them up under the cover of a rice paddy dike that gave them a little bit of protection. And the other two squads, seeing what happened, did the same thing. They got under the cover of a rice paddy dike. The problem was, this young Marine didn't look back. He didn't see that happen. So he just kept fighting. And he'd run in one direction, and you could literally see the bullets getting closer to him and closer to him, and just before it looked like they were going to hit him, he'd cut the other way. And he'd cut the other way, and he'd still fire, and when his ammunition went out, he'd drop that magazine and put another one in, back and forth. I mean, I don't know how far he ran. He had to run 200 yards back and forth to gain maybe another 10 or 20 yards towards this gun. All the while, bullets getting closer and closer until finally, bam! Kid was picked up like a rag doll and thrown back, obviously hit. In the time that all of these heroic actions took place, those Marines got into a safe position. The platoon that I had sent up the stream bed got up the stream bed. I'm getting the message back from the platoon commander saying, we're here, we're ready to go. And I'm saying, when I pop this green star cluster, which is kind of like a signal, like a Roman candle, when I pop this, I want you and your Marines, I want you out of that stream bed. I want you to take that gun out. I want you to wipe it out. You got it? Yes, sir. And I popped that green star cluster, and I mean, that thing went shooting in the air, and these great Marines of that platoon jumped out of that stream bed, and I mean, they started sweeping across this open rice paddy. When about that time, my radio operator grabbed me again. This time he didn't say anything to me. He pointed back out into the rice paddy, and this same Marine had gotten back up to his feet. He had taken his rifle and he'd put it in his shoulder like he was taught at boot camp. And he got good sight picture. He got good sight alignment. He got good trigger squeeze. And he walked down the line of fire of that .50 caliber machine gun. He walked down the line of fire of a .50 caliber machine gun. About 3 minutes later, my command group got up to where this now silenced gun was. And as God is my witness, there were 9 dead North Vietnamese soldiers around that gun. And draped over the barrel itself was this young Lance Corporal. And his fellow Marines, they went over there and they picked him up. And they laid him on the ground. And they opened up his flak jacket. And he had 5 bullet holes in him. 5 holes in him. And where they exited his body, they took out his back. There was nothing left of his back. The only thing that held him together was the tightness of his flak jacket. Some months later, I go to Washington, D.C., and I watch this Lance Corporal's widow receive this country's second highest decoration. In her hands was a little baby boy that this young Lance Corporal had only seen in a Polaroid picture. Never seen his child, except in a Polaroid picture. Unbelievable bravery. But that's not the story. That's not why I'm telling it. That's not why I still see this young man every single day of my life. I told you this was 1966. This was a black Marine. Black Marine. He couldn't buy a hamburger in his own hometown. He could not take a dollar bill, put it on the counter, and get served in a drugstore in his own hometown. Yet there was something inside of him, something very special, that when the chips were down, he did the right thing. He didn't look back and say, gee, I wonder if everybody I'm saving is an African American. He could have cared less. They could have been Hispanic, Asian, African American. Could have been Muslim, Catholic, Presbyterian. In this day and age, he certainly wouldn't have looked back and said, I wonder what gender. He just did the right thing. He had something that if we're going to be great leaders, we must all have. It's selflessness. He was selfless. He was selfless. He embodied what President Kennedy was talking about. Ask not what your country can do for you. What can you do for your country? My beloved Naval Academy, above the chapel doors, known Sibi sed Patriae, not for self, but for country. Want to be a great leader? You want to be a great husband or wife? You want to be a great friend? Be selfless. Be selfless. Selflessness. I'm going to take it, and I'm putting it right here. That's where it is. That's where selflessness is. You remember that.